Hello and welcome back to RamsTalkPodcast. And we're here today after, well, let's just call it a very busy weekend for the Rams. Very, very busy weekend. On the Friday, Paul Warne sacked by Derby County, took training in the morning. Afternoon, Cloud said, get out, mate. We want to move on. Warne's gone. Gets to Saturday. Matt Hamshaw takes charge. Derby draw 1-1 with Norwich City. Massive, massive result. Last minute Jerry Yates penalty. Great news. We wake up Sunday morning. The news has come out. Derby have bid 500 grand. As a bid, Derby have sent 500 grand or an offer worth 500 grand to Blackburn Rovers for their manager, John Eustace. So it looks like John Eustace, ex-Derby midfielder, might be the one leading the Rams on Tuesday. So joining me today to try and digest all of that. Let's see how well we do. Firstly, we've got Adam Titley. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Long journey, I think, for everyone to and from Norwich yesterday, but coming away with something to cheer about. So yeah, good after that one.
Yeah, it certainly was good, wasn't it? Well worth the journey. Yeah, I've never celebrated a 1-1 win like that before. It was a good day. We've also got Vik Singh. How are you, Vik?
Yeah, not too bad. A sense of rejuvenation, I think. It's probably echoing through the fan base as well with things that have gone on over the weekend. So it's nice to just be on a normal footing rather than negative all the time.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, I think, being honest, I think the change had to happen, didn't it? It had to happen. We got to a point where we'd hit a wall and it didn't look like Derby were ever going to find a way out. 7 defeats in a row, 8 defeats if you count that cup game against Leyton Orient. It's not a run that is salvageable with the current ideas. So Paul Warne gone. Probably, I felt a little bit sorry for him the way he went. I know you guys spent half an hour talking about that, so I won't touch on it too much. But yeah, I did feel a little bit of sympathy for the way it was handled. I thought maybe, the way Derby's board handled it. I mean, we know who we're on about here. Probably didn't do the best job, but we're now at a point where we can bring a new manager in. So before we get on to new manager chat, let's talk about Norwich. Matt Hamshaw took charge. He had Jake Buxton. He had Bradley Johnson as well as part of his team. And we started off with a 5-4-1. It was a little bit of a change to normal. I thought Derby looked organised. I thought, we looked like we know what we're doing. Obviously, that would have been set up during the week anyway. But Derby made a couple of tweaks during the game, Adam, and I've got them written down here. Obviously, Osborne, he played left wing back a couple of times, but I thought he really shone in that left wing back position. I think he looked like a player. He was playing in his actual position. I was unlucky not to get an assist. We changed our goal kicks. So we didn't have Zetterstrom booting out of play every 5 minutes. We went long. We looked for Salvas and we looked for Yates. We looked for players to flip the ball on and hold it up closer down the middle of the pitch. And sticking with the theme of down the middle of the pitch, we played the ball into Kenzo Haldmine and David Ozo a lot, and it created a lot of different angles. It created chances for the likes of Osborne and for the likes of Thompson on the right-hand side to actually get into good positions and create some chances. So looking at Derby's overall performance, Adam, I mean, it was promising, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's hard to tell whether just because there was a manager change and a few little tweaks, whether it really sparked the team into life a little bit as well. I think, yeah, there was a lot of positive signs, wasn't there, with the rotation of the team a little bit. And I think on paper, you looked at that team lineup, the formation, you thought it's pretty similar to what we've already been playing. But it'd be interesting to see how we fared in the game. But like you said, we look more organised, and I think playing through the middle definitely helps a lot. Create space out wide, funny enough, as well. Considering we played through the middle a lot more. It was good to see Ozo back in good form. Obviously, after the injury, Kenzo looked really good. We know how good he is when we can get him on the ball. But like I said, Osborne out wide and Thompson out wide did a really good job. And I was a little bit nervous for Thompson being in that sort of right wing back position, whether they were going to put a lot of pressure on him, Norwich. But I thought he handled it quite well. We were quite calm on the ball, and we were quite calm when Norwich had the ball. We didn't really let Norwich have too many clear-cut chances other than the goal. So, yeah, a lot of positive signs. I think something to build on, really. We've gone in there with a pretty decent starting 11, similar sort of formation to what we've been playing. But I think the sort of little changes made all the difference yesterday.
Yeah, they really did. And there was some surprise, Vic, before the game that, we looked at the team, we're like, we've got 4 central midfielders on the pitch, but we ended up with Osborne, left wing back, Tomo, right wing back. And I thought both of them had really good games. And it's strange. We've often played Elder in that position. We had Kane Wilson. Obviously, he's not fit at the minute. But both of them actually managed really well and looked like they could be a real good option for Derby going forwards towards the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Ben Osborne obviously has played left wing back, I think, the majority of his career, especially at Sheffield United. So we know he's sort of accustomed to that role. I think there was an experiment with Tomo playing at one of the wing backs. I briefly remember it at some point. It might have been during the Rooney season. I can't
Pre-season
remember.
last year. It's pre-season
The
last year, I
preseason,
think. Yeah.
I definitely remember him playing in that position. So yesterday, he put a good shift in. Both of them played really well. And again, it just gives us options. When we looked at the team sheet, we probably thought, where are we going to fit all these in? But now we've realised that there's sort of versatility within the players. I think we always knew Tomo could do a job wherever you put him. We knew Osborne can play left wing back, but it's just nice to see that. I think we focused a lot more on the energy aspect of it yesterday, trying to deal with their wingers. I think what really stood out for me yesterday was that middle four, and how compact it was in the middle. It really restricted Norwich from actually playing through the middle, which is their strength. Forced them out wide, and then that back five could deal with everything that was being chucked at us. So I thought the way we set up yesterday tactically was spot on first off, and we really restricted Norwich to nothing. But going back to the original point, the fullbacks look really good. It's probably Osborne's best performance this season, in my opinion. I don't think he's actually played. Yeah, so I mean, I don't think he's actually played that well all year. But I guess if you put him in his natural position, he's going to put in a decent performance. And same for Tomo as well. Kudos to him for playing in a position he's not naturally accustomed to, but he did really well. And hopefully we can see their good form continue.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a comment as well talking about Ozo and the difference that he made as well. I mean, it did make a huge difference, didn't it? I mean, two players in the middle that could have the ball to feet, turn, look inside, look outside. It makes such a huge difference to Derby, and I think we've missed Ozo a lot. So it's good to have him back and have him in decent form as well. I mean, Adam, we need to touch on that disallowed goal. I mean, we were directly in line with it, weren't we? Pretty much. You could see that it was onside. In fact, I went crazy celebrating because I was like, well, that's a goal. There's no way that's disallowed. Usually you have a quick glance at the lino, and I didn't even look because I knew that he was on. And then to look down and see the lino with his flag up, it was pretty disappointing. But the move itself, I mean, Mendes-Lang with a really good run, brilliant ball in behind for Osborne, who whipped an equally good ball across the box. And Salverson with the outside of his left foot cannoned it into the top corner on the half volley. I mean, it was a really good move. It was really good football, and it showed what this Derby team can do. And whilst it was disallowed, it's got to provide hope going forwards that we managed to carve open Norwich so easily.
Yeah, and I think also it was good to see us drift into the middle, because I think that opened up the space for Osborne to play out wide. I think this season, when we've been so reliant on going out wide and just trying to move the ball between fullback and winger or just wing back, then we've always struggled to really beat our man. I think we've seen numerous times this season players just turn around and play it back into the defence or midfield when trying to go up the wing. But when we played through the middle yesterday, like Mendes-Lang for that opportunity, it definitely opened up a little bit more space. And you could definitely see the game plan we had was to get crosses on Salverson's head or foot. I think that was pretty obvious whenever it was either Kenzo on the left out wide or Osborne on the left out wide. We definitely had the idea to get it on Salverson, and it almost worked if that goal had stood. But yeah, it was refreshing to see us be so dangerous on the counter and also so good when coming forward as well.
And we saw last season, Vic, when Derby defended, they had that 5-4-1. But when we had the ball, Mendes-Lang ended up playing a lot more centrally. He was playing in that central position. And last season, Mendes-Lang played in that central position a lot. Up in that front two with James Collins, and we saw that with him and Salverson, and they seemed to link up pretty well. I mean, like we said, for the goal, it was Mendes-Lang's driving run. There were a couple of times where he got into good positions. There was one in the second half where he ran down the right and cut it back, and I think Salverson thought Osborne was behind him and left it for him, and it ended up running back to their defence. But it showed again, we played players in their better positions. Mendes-Lang either on the right or up front on the right, and Salverson up top, and Osborne at left wing back. We've cried out for round pegs in round holes for a while, and Matt Hamshaw, to his credit, seemed to get it spot on yesterday.
I mean, looking on paper, you wouldn't think it was round pegs and round holes, but like you said, especially with that midfield four, it's quite interchangeable. I mean, at some point you were seeing Kenzo drift out to the left, and he was being a threat down the left-hand side. We saw Ozo get out onto the wing as well. And between the four of them, I thought they managed the situation really well. I think what's nice to see is that they all trust each other in that sort of midfield four. They can all interchange between each other. And I think that's what put Norwich off their game plan. I think the fact that they couldn't predict what our midfield was going to do sort of played into our strength. And then we saw the best of, like, Mendes-Lang. I thought Kenzo was back to his old self when we first signed him. He had a really good performance yesterday. And it just allowed us to have a bit more freedom and a bit more creativity just to play our football. And it's amazing what you can do with a managerial change, but also a tactical change as well. I think had we gone into that, no disrespect to Ward, but had we gone into that with him still in charge, we know what would have happened. We probably would have expected 2-3-1 defeat. Yesterday, it was almost like a clean slate. The lads were given sort of room to sort of express themselves going forward, but when it came to defending, it was be tight and compact. And the midfield four really impressed me yesterday, just because I didn't expect the fluidity of the four. Bearing in mind that I don't think they've actually played together all season. I think that four haven't. So it's nice to see that. It was nice to see how interchangeable it was as well. And going forward, that's definitely something that we can ponder, whether that's Mr. Eustace that comes in, whoever decides to come in. That's definitely given him something to think about with that midfield. So a really good performance. I'm really proud of that. And it was really nice to watch it as well.
It was, and I think that reflected the atmosphere in the stand. I mean, I've seen a few Norwich fans say that was the best atmosphere they've seen all season in the away end. You know, the noise was huge, and it was only made larger when Derby scored their goal. I mean, Norwich's goal, I mean, it's a good goal. It's just good football. Maybe Matt Clark stepped a little too early, but it's good football, great finish, top corner, nothing we can do. But they didn't really trouble us apart from that, and we put a little bit of pressure on towards the end. Marcus Harness did really well, I thought. He put his head in where it hurts. He didn't just get kicked by one player, he got kicked by two at the same time, which I think shows how brave he was to sort of throw his head in there. And Jerry Yates converts the penalty. The away end goes absolutely ballistic. I mean, Adam, it makes such a big difference, doesn't it? And Vik mentioned there, you know, maybe it's that fresh change of tactical approach or whatever, but you could feel the belief yesterday. You could feel it in the players, and we've not seen that on that losing run. Every time we conceded, it felt like we'd already lost. You know, some games, even before we conceded, it felt like we'd lost. Whereas yesterday, the players pulled together. They had that belief. They had that leadership on the pitch. You know, maybe having a couple of new players helped as well. And yeah, it just looked a lot more promising.
Yeah, and I think you're right when Vik said it's sort of that fresh tactical approach. I think, yeah, it's just that, right, it's a fresh start now. I know we've not got a manager in, but you've got a point to prove out there to whoever comes in. And you've got a point to prove probably to the supporters as well that we can turn this losing run around like we did. And like we mentioned, players in there like Tomo and Osborne who put in really good performances in positions that we've not really seen them been used in this season. I think that plays into it as well. And I think the team selection as well. This is no criticism of Harness or Jackson here, but I think they've been primarily used this season. And we saw a tactical change where they were left to the bench and they were used off the bench instead of starting, which I think they were more dangerous at as well instead of a full 90. So I think it's sort of that sort of heavy breathing out now, and it's fresh start. Players can prove a point. Supporters know it's not necessarily a new era, but it's just that we're in the Championship. Let's try and prove that we can stay here and that we're good enough to compete at this level as well. Because I think there was talk of obviously Warne being relieved of his duties for the better part of a month, and I think it was just sort of getting everybody down, especially in the stands as well. It's hard to generate that atmosphere when you've got that losing feeling, especially on the run of defeats. And yeah, I think it's sort of that fresh start now, something new, something a little bit more exciting to get behind, and it definitely helps the atmosphere as well.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, something else that helped the atmosphere, Vik, was Derby's new signing, Sondra Langos, or Langoose, as Jamie called him, I think, last week. I don't know where he got that from, but I mean, he played at right centre back. When we spoke to Rugby Volvinson about what kind of player he is, he thought he'd play in the centre of centre back. Because he's probably not the best on the ball, he said, and you can tell that they play in European competition because he looked more than good enough on the ball yesterday. He didn't look a worry at all, but defensively he looked like a rock. He was quick, he was strong. There was one time where I think someone had 5 yards on him and he managed to make that space back and close him down and force him backwards. I loved when he ran down the wing and he knocked it around the defender, and it took a desperate sliding tackle to stop him, I guess, bursting through a goal at one point. I mean, he looks like a really good investment. Yes, we've only seen one game. We'll have to see him play at home, play at Derby, bed into this team a little bit more. But first impressions wise, it was certainly a good one.
Oh, 100%. And when you look at the the performance he put in. You want him to put that sort of performance against a promotion hopeful or one of the better teams in the Championship. If he's putting that sort of performance in against a team like Norwich, imagine what he'd be like over the course of a season against a range of various different teams. He's going to be an important player for us, I think, especially in the running, but even in the next year or two, we can certainly build that team around him. And I think with Sondre and Clark, especially, and if Phillips decides to side in the summer, I thought that back three was very calm and composed, which I haven't seen in the Derby defence for a long time. And Sondre just brings a whole load of experience with him. Like you said, he's got a quick turn of pace. He's very physical. He's not afraid to get the ball on the deck and play. It sort of reminded me, I know I might get called out for this, but it reminded me a bit like Tomori when he first joined. Yeah. So I mean, it reminded me very much of like how Tomori would play, like very quick in the foot race. He's calm and composed on the ball. I mean, I'd love to have seen him gone through on goal and have a shot yesterday if he'd have got past that fullback. But yeah, it's promising signs. We're really pleased to see that he's had a really good debut. Hopefully, he can continue that. I reckon if you're paying 4 million for a player like that, I think it does come with its class and obviously its high ability. So I reckon Sondre is going to be a really important player for us. And it kind of doesn't make the cash-in sales so bad now, because it almost looks like we might have a ready-made replacement. I know it's one game, but he's put a performance in like that, so the standards are set quite high, and I think he'll continue that, and he's going to be really important for that running come end of May.
Well, if you look at the back three that Derby played at Sheff Wednesday, you had Sonny Bradley, you had Nat Phillips, you had lights of Curtis Nelson around then as well, Aaron Cashin. Like, you look at that time, I think our back three's levels better now. Nat Phillips is obviously the only surviving member. I'd say he's arguably defensively probably the best of the three that we had between him, Nelson, Cashin. And then he's got Langus to his right, who, clearly has talent, and he's got the pace to recover as well, which is really big for us because we've not had a lot of pace at the back. And then Matt Clark, he's really composed, he's really strong. He probably could have done a little bit better for the goal, but over the course of the season, he's going to make up for that, and he's going to be a massive player for us, not just in stature, but in experience. We've got an experienced back line now. We've got an experienced back line, and yeah, that'll really play into our hands, hopefully, going forward. So, I mean, last thing from the game, scenes at the end, Adam. It's something that you like to see, isn't it? I said at the start, made a bit of a joke about a 1-1 win, but it felt like a win, didn't it, at the end of that game, because it'd been such a terrible run, 8 defeats in a row in all competitions. So to end it in the way that we did as well, last minute equaliser, probably we're lucky not to win it in the end. Imagine if Matt Clark had got his head on that corner. And it just felt so huge for us, and a weight's been lifted off the team.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to that point of like a fresh start and a weight lifted off the team's shoulders, and to get the goal late on was probably the perfect scenario just for that confidence booster, even more than I think what the fans and what the team were feeling when the game was going on. I think we felt like we were in it. We were competing with what is a very good Norwich City side, and I think it's great to see that. And yeah, what a massive result for like the fans and the team, for a confidence booster, and the late goal, and you could see the atmosphere just lifted as soon as we got that penalty. And when Yates put it away, yeah, the away end was great after that, wasn't it? And 1,700 fans travelling down is no small number, and such a long away game at that on an eight game losing streak is fantastic. And to come away from it with something is even better, and something to build on for whoever comes in as the new manager, and also for the supporters to get behind the team on such a crucial game on Tuesday night.
Well, who might come in? I think we probably know by now, as it's been published almost everywhere, but it came out this afternoon. It came out this morning that Derby have made an official approach for John Eustace. Obviously, they played today. Blackburn did. They lost 2-0 to Wolves, although they should have got 1-0 up. They had a goal disallowed, which was miles onside. Sound familiar? But Derby have met his 500 grand release clause that he has at Blackburn. It's come out that he's not been very happy there. He's not happy with the ownership, the way they've, I guess, not communicated things to him. They've potentially promised him things that he never ended up getting. And it looks like it wasn't a very good relationship between them. He'd applied for jobs at the likes of Coventry as well. So John Eustace looks like he's going to be Derby's next manager, Vik. I mean, 500,000 for a manager that has a great record in this league. I mean, If he leaves Blackburn, he'll have left the last 2 teams he's been at will have been in the top 6 when he's left the job. He left Birmingham and they were 6th, leaving Blackburn, they're 6th currently. I mean, it looks like a really, really good appointment if Derby can get it over the line. And I mean, of all the managers we could get, getting one that knows the club as well. I mean, it was going to make a huge difference in this relegation scrap.
100%. And I think it was a name that not really many considered either, because when I was looking at who we probably appoint, Eustace wasn't the forefront of my mind. But if you look at his record at Birmingham, he did wonders on a shoestring, pretty similar to Blackburn as well. Wonders on the shoestring. He sort of turned the fortunes around at both clubs, and that's the sort of person you want to lead your club going forward. I said it on X earlier. I think he's the perfect candidate to sort of be in charge for the second phase of Derby's rebuild. I think we're still in a very big transition at the minute. We've got back to the Championship, but I think we're ready for phase 2, and I think someone of John Eustace ilk is perfect for that rebuild and that next phase now. And I think he knows the Championship inside out. He's a very pragmatic manager. He knows what it takes to win. He likes to play 4-3-3. It's forward attack-minded football. He's learned from some of the best coaches as well. I think Steve McLaren, he's been assistant to Mark Warburton when they were successful at QPR. So he's got a lot of experience there. He's a very good manager. He's very well thought of. And of course, he's got the affinity to the club. He lives in Sutton Coldfield, I think, even now. So I think he's very local. It makes sense, doesn't it, to bring someone like John Eustace in. I'm quite excited to see what happens when he does come in. But yeah, it's just positive signs, positive vibes all around. And I'm really excited to see an ex-Derby player actually become manager. I don't think that's happened in our lifetime. I can't think back.
I can't either. I was trying to think that.
Other than really don't count. But I'm thinking like a player that had an impact and was actually a good player for Derby become manager. It sort of seems like the perfect fit, doesn't it? So I'm really excited.
Did Guy Rowland not play for us?
He did,
but
yeah.
I forgot about that. I should know that because I'm older than you guys as well. Yeah, but you get my point. For the younger fans that listen to us, I think that'll be a very good, shrewd appointment in my opinion.
Yeah, we've not had Jamie Ward or Johnny Russell in charge or anything like that yet, have we? So yeah, we've got a bit of time before that, I'm sure. But yeah, Adam, I mean, he's a manager fans can get behind, isn't he? I mean, let's be honest, I don't think a lot of fans got on with Warne from early doors. I remember seeing a few weeks in, and people were getting tired of his jokes, stuff like that. I never really had a problem with him as a bloke, but I know a lot of people did. The way he approached interviews and stuff like that, especially when things weren't going right as well, had a lot of people sort of concerned about it. But this guy's different. John Eustace is different. He's the sort of guy that people get behind. Birmingham fans loved him. They were devastated when he got sacked. Blackburn fans love him, and they're going to be devastated when he leaves. We've seen all day, why would he leave Blackburn to go to Derby? Why would he do that? What a strange decision. And I think that gives me a bit of confidence that we're not just getting the right manager, we're getting the right guy as well. Because again, Paul Warne got Derby promoted, but we still had a lot of fans that were questioning him, right or wrong. We still had a lot of fans that didn't believe in him and what he could do. Whereas everywhere Eustace has been, when he's left, the fans have gone, well, we didn't want him to leave. We want him to stay. I mean, that's surely a good omen.
Yeah, it really is. To have that connection with the fan base, even when you leave, I think is massive as well. Obviously, knowing the circumstances of him leaving Birmingham City, I think the fans didn't want him to leave, really. And it seems like Blackburn Rovers fans think a lot about him as well. And he's had a really promising career, I think, as a manager. I would say is almost up and coming. I think this might be completely wrong, but I remember when I think his first job was Kidderminster.
It was.
I'm sure his footballing side got nicknamed the non-league Barcelona or something similar to that at the time, because I remember seeing that when he was manager there. And yeah, I think it'd be a really good appointment for Derby, and especially for the fans to connect with him. I think he was a bit of a cult hero at the time he was at the club. I just got in the front of my mind that goal against QPR, big game. And he just comes in with a looping header as Chris Martin rugby tackles the QPR goalkeeper away from the ball. So, yeah, that's in the forefront of my mind there. But no, it'd be a great addition, and I think probably that right switch from we've seen a lot of discontent from the fans with obviously the previous manager, and it'd be great to be able to get behind the new one straight away.
Yeah, exactly. And Vik, we saw when he played for us, he was a really big presence in that Derby midfield. I mean, he was a captain at pretty much every club he went to. He came into Derby's midfield at a time when, we were struggling a bit. We had a lot of young lads in there, Hughes, Hendrick, Bryson was sort of in his mid-20s. We had a lot of players in that team that didn't have the experience of playing a top championship side. And Eustace came in and he just was that calming presence in midfield. He made that massive difference to us. And that'll be huge, won't it, for a Derby team that, there are a couple of inexperienced players. Obviously, Ibu Adams has hardly played at this level. Kenzo Haldmine's new. We've got a lot of players that have come in from abroad. We've got a lot of players that haven't got massive championship experience. So to have someone with that calming influence, with that experience, will play such a big part in us staying up.
100%. And like you said, he's got the leadership qualities. He had that as a player. He's definitely got it as a manager. From what Blackburn fans and Birmingham fans have said, he's a very good manager. He brings a good togetherness to the club. And I think we've already got that with the players already. I think they're quite a tight-knit squad. And I think he'll just add to that. But he'll add that calming presence. He'll make sure that obviously he knows we're in a relegation fight, but he'll make sure we're very much feet on the ground. There's a job to do. And there's things that we need to do to get it done. And I reckon he'll just put us all in the right place. He'll give us the freedom to sort of play to our strength. I think one criticism I always had of Paul Warne was the fact that the handbrake was always on. Yesterday we saw the handbrake had come off after he'd gone, and you can see the difference in levels that and the performance. So he knows we've got a lot of attacking talent at the club, albeit we are a bit threadbare with injuries and everything. But I think he'll really get the most out of the squad, and I think someone with that calm, collective leadership is perfect for a relegation dogfight. And this is why I'm quite confident if he was to come in, that we'd be safe, just purely because he'll know what it takes to stay in the division, but he's just got that calming presence about him. He'll reassure the lads that there's nothing to worry about, and he'll just make sure that we focus on everything on the pitch and get everything right on the pitch so we can really fight and stay up this season. So it's good that he'll be able to bring a lot of his player attributes to his managerial career, and I think again it just makes it for an exciting appointment. And like you said, it's a very inexperienced sort of squad that we've got here, but with him at the helm, I think we'll be fine. And I'm just really excited to see what he can bring to Derby at the minute.
Watch him not get appointed now. We'll do all of this and he'll turn us down. Something like that.
It's the worst kept secret. I'm the one that's taken over.
Oh God, poor Jackson if that happens, eh? Poor bloke. I mean, we've got one of the comments from Torture Pickles says manager's job's to make the players better. And I think Eustace would be one of those. I'm not going to say I've watched every single one of his games. I've probably watched about 3 this season. One of them being when they smacked us 4-2. But I think he does make players better. And we saw that at Birmingham. He got a lot out of that Birmingham squad. The second he left, Rooney came in, and suddenly he couldn't get anything out of that squad. They got relegated. They were 6th, and they got relegated. And, Blackburn, they were nailed on for relegation at the start of the season. I think a lot of people forget that first game of the season was billed as a relegation 6-pointer. And yet here we are, we're in February and Blackburn is still in 6th position. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I mean, Adam, if we think back to that first game of the season, they destroyed us, didn't they? Blackburn was so dangerous on the break, and they waited and waited for Derby to give the ball away. And every time we did give the ball away, they punished us. It'd be good to see some of that.
Yeah, I think I tried to put that game out of my mind as much as possible because it felt like a cup game, if I'm honest. It felt like we were still in League One when we played that match, if I'm being honest. But yeah, no, it'd be great to see if we could play that football. John Eustace got that Blackburn side performing really well with the players that he's brought in. Obviously, losing Sitzmodics in the summer was massive as well, considering how good he was last season for them. And like you say, they were tipped for relegation the same as us at the start of the season. I was one who thought they'd be in that similar position. But no, they've done really well. And John Eustace, if you can get that sort of performance out of the players we've got and sort of style of play out of the players that we've got at the moment, then I think it could make for a really interesting prospect, because I think we've got maybe 1 or 2 players in that team, which I think can step it up a gear really in the right sort of system. So yeah, it could be a pretty exciting prospect.
That'd be nice. That's what we need, isn't it? We need excitement. I don't think we've had enough excitement this season. I mean, 4 wins in about 300 games probably tells that story. But yeah, a little bit of excitement comes to this Derby team, get a few wins and yeah, hopefully Eustace will be the man. So hopefully when this is out, when people are listening on Monday morning, Tuesday morning, on your commute, whenever you're listening or watching, hopefully Derby have got themselves a new manager and we've not wasted 10 minutes of our lives talking about the wrong one if it's somebody else. So Derby have got a massive, massive game on Tuesday. Huge game. We can't understate how important this is. Oxford United, another one of the promoted teams, came up through the playoffs. They did what Derby probably should have done, and they sacked their manager before the transfer window to get themselves ready so a new manager could come in and build a team. And that's what Gary Rowett's done. We know what Rowett's all about. He plays worn ball, but it works. Sit deep, absorb pressure, smash on the break, win 3 points, repeat. And they've done it so well. They're miles out of the relegation scrap now. But it's still a huge game for us because this is a team that Derby last season obviously beat. We drew to them 1-1 earlier in the season, if you can remember that. Mendes Lang with his first goal of the season there. So it's going to be a really, really interesting game. So to preview it, we got Jack Ward from the Jack Ward Football Podcast, big Oxford fan, big content creator, and he sent us this video to preview this game.
Jack Ward Football Podcast. I'm here to talk about Oxford United and the season so far, which is quite difficult because it's split into two halves, really. The first under Des Buckingham, which started really well. The momentum of promotion from League One through the playoff final, that brilliant result against Bolton. It was a really positive start to our championship season, the first in 25 years. But then a really bad run of form occurred, and the simple stuff wasn't being done. The basics of football began hard work. We hit a turgid run. The games looked really difficult, and it felt as though the championship and the brutality of the championship are caught up on us, and mistakes are punished. You can get away with bits and pieces in League One, ride the wave, and still find success within matches. But in that really terrible run that Des Buckingham hit before he lost his job, it was difficult. But having said all of that, his sacking still felt controversial, especially having said all of that, his sacking still felt controversial because of the attachment he had with Oxford United, the achievement in promotion from the League One to. But having said all of that, his sacking still felt controversial because of that brilliant end to the season in League One, that promotion and the good start. Most importantly, his relationship and his connection towards Oxford United. Being an Oxford United boy himself, he'd gone abroad, built a fantastic CV, but he lost his job. And Gary Rowett was the man that took his spot. And since then, we haven't really looked back. We have improved in so many areas. We look far more organised on and off the ball. Players that look like a shadow of themselves in the Des Buckingham era, or the poor end of the Des Buckingham era, now look like really good players that are competing at a high level in the Championship. Will Vaulks, his form fell off a cliff at the end of the Buckingham era. He now looks like a very strong defensive midfielder playing alongside Cameron Brannigan. Placheta looks like he is far more valuable to this Oxford United team. His output in the initial first few games of the Rowett skyrocketed fantastically well. So we haven't looked back since the Des Buckingham departure, which at the time felt quite controversial because of the way he left. But Gary Rowett has done a fantastic job. In terms of players that could damage Derby County, you've got your Cameron Brannigans, who have been just brilliant. In terms of players that could cause Derby County problems, you've got the likes of Cameron Brannigan in central midfield, who just always does seem to cause a problem for an opposition within a game. Tyler Goodrum is always a stardust kind of player. Out of nowhere, he'll do a fantastic, fantastic piece of work that you'll look and go, how on earth has he done that? A player that did really well on Tuesday night, Alex Matos on loan from Chelsea, who played in the number 10 for Oxford United on the day. He looks like a really quite impressive midfielder. Not quite sure what his best position is, potentially next to Will Vaulks or instead of Will Vaulks. I actually thought in the number 10, getting on the board, he looked a real danger. In quite a physical game, I expect, against Derby County, I think he could be quite handy. So I've given you three players that could cause you a problem. We've got some really good defensive options too that hopefully are going to stop the physical side of Derby County. Kieran Brown's another name defensively I'd keep an eye out on. In terms of a weakness for Oxford United, and that's quite difficult because of the improvement that he's made, Gary Rowett, since he joined Oxford United, the only one I would say is maybe, and that could be enhanced by what happened on Tuesday. We were playing Burnley, who've got a phenomenal defensive record. This could be being slightly harsh. I feel we lack sometimes a focal point and maybe a bit of punch and bite in the central areas of the attacking zones. That's just my personal view. I think Bradshaw and Harris offer so much. They offer a lot of selfless running. They are very, very good, hard-working number 9s. But if you look at their goal output, I'm still slightly concerned about that. But maybe I'm being harsh. It's quite difficult at the moment purely because of how good we've been since Gary took charge. In terms of a score prediction, I'm going to say it's very difficult now because of the Paul Warne sacking. That does change quite a bit. I know you're playing before we play you on Tuesday. I'm actually going to go with a draw. I think it's going to be Derby County 1, Oxford United 1.
There we go. Thank you very much, Jack, for that. Every single cut in that gave me and Adam a bit of a heart attack then. It's really interesting insight. I mean, you can see the difference that Gary Rowett's made, bringing players, as was mentioned before. The best managers can get the best out of their players. And from what Jack's saying there, Adam, it sounds like Oxford are starting to get the best out of their better players and they're looking like a better team for it.
Yeah, and I think Gary Rowett sets his teams up so well that if you can get the best out of your better players, then you'll know you'll get results. I think we did that superbly when we had Gary Rowett as manager. I think we saw a number of players become more clinical. We saw a number of players step up. I think Cameron Jerome, for that second half of the season, we got the best out of him, in my opinion. Anyway, I thought he stepped up for the big moments personally. When the ball's in front of him, you usually put it in the back of the net. But yeah, it's gonna be a tough game for Derby, especially we know how Oxford are going to play. I found it interesting that he said he thinks they might lack a little bit of punch and bite up top. I think we did really well to limit Sargent when playing Norwich, so hopefully we can follow a similar sort of path when playing Oxford and limit them to few clear-cut opportunities.
Well, that's it. And Vik, we saw earlier in the season when we played them under Buckingham, they played beautiful football. I thought in the first half they played really lovely football. I mean, their goal, they carved us open so easily. They just passed it through as goal, easy. Whereas now they seem to be a bit more structured, but they hit you on the break. They're quick at moving the ball, whereas before it was kind of slow. They were trying to play a bit like Barcelona in the Championship with a low-end Championship team, and that's why it wasn't working for them. Whereas now they're being a bit more pragmatic. They're being a bit smarter, and they look a lot more dangerous. So again, can Derby manage that sort of Oxford press? Can they manage that counter attack and try and protect ourselves like we did against Norwich?
I think if we set up the way we did against Norwich, I don't think there'll be too much cause for concern. I think the way Oxford do play, like we said, they are pragmatic. It's a Gary Rowett sort of team, so it's always win by any means necessary. And I think he's gonna try and chuck the kitchen sink at us, but I reckon we'll have enough to deal with it. I think if we just set up the way we did yesterday, keep the majority of that first 11 to start again, if they're not too tired, there's no knocks or injuries. I think Ozil might have limped off yesterday, but other than that, if we can keep that together, just going with the same mindset, you never know. Eustace might already be in by then, or the new manager might already be in by then. So we've got the new manager bounce as well. It's got all the makings of a very interesting Championship tie. I think for them, it's not really a must win. I think for us, we could do with the 3 points just to sort of steer clear of the relegation zone and sort of really take control of it. But again, like I said, it's got all the makings of an interesting game. I think both teams will go for it, in my opinion, and it'll be quite the spectacle. I reckon we could see a few goals on Tuesday night. So yeah, it's quite interesting. And I haven't said that for a while, so I'm looking forward to it.
That's it. I'm excited. I'm really excited for the game. I was excited at the weekend, but knowing that we should hopefully have a new manager through the door, I mean, it gives you an extra layer, doesn't it? It gives you an extra level of excitement. Like, we could turn up, we could win, Adam. Will we play a back 3? Will we play a back 4? Will we score some goals? What do you reckon? How do you think it's going to go?
Well, hopefully all of the above. I think we need that win. I think it's tough playing Oxford, a side who've been in good form under Gary Rowett. If you forget about the previous result against the top side in the division, they've been in some very good form. So it's going to be a tough game, but hopefully we carry on as we mean to go on and let the handbrake off again, and we just play some football that's attacking. I think if we continue to do the things that we know work well, as in get Kenzo on the ball in further forward positions, target Salverson when putting balls into the box specifically, rather than just putting balls into the box for the sake of it, then I think we could definitely create some dangerous chances. And having that home advantage, I'm hoping there can be a little bit of an atmosphere going into it, which should aid us a lot. So yeah, hopefully we can bring some points back, even if it's just one or maybe even the valued 3 that I think we're so desperate for.
Well, we saw on Saturday, Vic, that the atmosphere was the best it's been in a long time away from home, in really long time, because, yeah, we've not had any luck. We've always played the handbrake on. It's been a pretty depressing time to support Derby. But like Adam says, that bit of hope is surely going to spur the fans on.
Yeah, 100%. I think now, like we said, it's a fresh start. It's a clean slate. I think everyone's quite excited about what's to come. However, we just know that if we can put performances in like we did yesterday, we know what this team can do. We know what's up against us. Really, we can see there's 15 cup finals left. Let's really get behind the lads now and just give them the support, because the atmosphere was great yesterday. Let's continue that at home, because the players are going to need us, and whichever manager comes in, he's going to need us too. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen at Pride Park on Tuesday. As long as we get behind the lads, it worked yesterday. Let's keep it going. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it certainly is. And if you've got a score prediction and goal scorers in the chat, please let us know. You've got about a minute before I come to you. Adam, I want your score prediction and your goal scorers. What are you thinking?
I think I'm probably going to agree with Jack and say a 1-1 draw. I think I'd be really impressed if we came out and won that game, either with Matt Hamshaw as interim or whoever comes in charge as manager, to have a quick impact like that. But I'll go with a 1-1 draw. And I'll say Mendes Lang with the goal at home again, similar to how we scored away from home against them. But no, a point would be positive for us again, and continually something to build on.
Vic, got to win at home games. What are you thinking?
So I'm going to go really bizarre now, and I'm going to say 3-2 Derby win. I just can see goals in this game. I just think that if we play like we did yesterday, we'll be on the front foot. A player like Salverson gets in between the posts. He's guaranteed to score goals at this level, and I think he's due a goal soon. So I think a 3-2 Derby win. I think Salverson's going to get 2, and I think, well, you know what, we'll go with the Clark header to win it. So I think a 3-2 win.
Good stuff. Let's have a check of the comments. Jim says 3-1 Derby with goals from Ozone, the Elk, and Salvation. That was a painful read. I'm glad you apologised, Jim. Chris Longcourse says 1-0 Derby. Raw, I'm sure that's how you meant to say it, says 2-0 on Tuesday with a Norwegian double, Salverson and Langos. That'd be nice. Ian Mellor says 1-0 Derby, Langos to score. Liaka's free kick says 1-0 Derby, Clark to score. Infernal says 2-1 Derby, Ozo and Langos. And he's even done the little accent over the A as well. That is incredible commitment. Peter Kerr says 2-0 to Derby. Nico says 2-1. Last minute winner with Kenzo. Ryan Jono is the miserable man at the bottom, says 1-1. And Adam Lilly says 1-0 Derby, Nat Phillips. And I'm going to join some of the positive fans. I'm going to go with the same as Nico. I'm going to say I think it's going to be 2-1 Derby. I think Derby are really going to go for it. New manager through the door. We've got a bit of hope. We've got a bit of belief. The players are going to be fighting for their positions now. You know, all that past glory that they had under Warne is worth nothing, because the new manager is going to come in and take them for what they are now, not what they were then. So the players are going to be well up for it, and I think we'll get a result 2-1. I think Kenzo Halmine late run edge of the box, and I think we'll score a header as well. I think Matt Clark is going to use that massive bold head to cannon a header into the top corner and win it for Derby later on. So let's hope that's the case, and the Rams can celebrate with 3 points. So thank you so much for listening. If you did enjoy, please do leave a like, please do subscribe. Sorry for a couple of technical issues today. I don't know what was going on with that video at points. I think that was my fault, trying to type in the chat at the same time. But I hope you've enjoyed it, and yeah, please do give us a rating and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. It's good to have you guys around and good to have you in the comments. So it is goodbye from me.
Hopefully John Eustace is in for the next game, or whoever's in charge, and it'll be 3 points. So goodbye from me.
It's a new dawn. It's a new day. Big Eustace Barmy Army. Goodbye from me.
Absolutely love it. Come on, you Rams. Let's get 3 points on Tuesday and get ourselves back up that league. We'll see you soon.